Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another marvelous video. If you grew up in the late 80s or 90s, chances are you've caught at least one of these films on late-night cable. What started as a modestly budgeted Jean-Claude Van Damme film somehow spawned a whole series of increasingly bizarre sequels that most fans don't even know exist. From its legendary based on a true story origins, spoiler alert, it wasn't, to all the horrible sequel entries that tried desperately to keep the magic alive, this franchise has had a lot of ups and downs over the years. The movie also introduced Van Damme as a martial arts star. If you haven't guessed already, today we will look into the entire Bloodsport series. So sit back and enjoy as we look into the rise and fall of a cult martial arts franchise. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Bloodsport 1988, the classic that started it all. Let us start with the film that started off this whole franchise, Bloodsport from 1988. This movie is loosely based on the very questionable real-life story of Frank Dux. We'll get to why it is questionable later. Let's discuss the plot first. For Van Damme, Bloodsport was the breakout film, and the story follows Frank Dux, who sneaks away from his military duties to compete in an underground martial arts tournament, the Kumite. Now, Dux is portrayed as a US Army captain in this film, and he's been trained from a young age by Senzo Tanaka in the ways of ninjutsu. As a kid, he tried to steal a sword from Tanaka, but got caught. Instead of punishing him, Tanaka saw potential in the gutsy kid and trained him alongside his son Shingo. When Shingo died, Dux became Tanaka's honorary son and heir to his fighting style, and he entered the tournament in Tanaka's son's place. With the military sending 2 agents to drag him back, Dux makes friends with American fighter Ray Jackson and a local fixer, Victor Lin. The tournament's reigning champ, Chong Li, is basically a psychopath who gets pissed when Dux breaks his knockout record. Things get personal between the two when Chong Li puts Jackson in the hospital after Jackson stupidly gloats instead of finishing the fight. Sounds like a classic rookie mistake, right? Anyways, Dux now wants to avenge Jackson. By the finals, Dux has managed to dodge both Hong Kong police and American agents, promising to surrender after the tournament. Facing Chong Li, Dux gets the upper hand until Li pulls a dirty move. He crushes salt into Dux's eyes. But our hero channels his training, fighting blind, and ultimately defeats Li to become the first Westerner ever to win the Kumite. Now that his mission has been accomplished, Dux keeps his word and returns to face the music back home with the CID officers. What makes Bloodsport so special is how perfectly it captures the late 80s martial arts vibe. A terrifying villain in Bolo Yeung's Chong Li, intense training flashbacks with a wise old mentor, and of course, Van Damme performing splits in just about every setting imaginable. The tournament scenes are what truly cemented this movie in martial arts history. And who could forget the final showdown with Chong Li? When Dux has to fight blindfolded after getting powder thrown in his eyes? That moment where he listens for Chong Li's breathing before delivering the final blow is enough to give anyone chills. Before Bloodsport, Van Damme was just another struggling actor with martial arts skills. After this film exploded, he became an action superstar overnight. His signature split kicks and that iconic Van Damme face of intense concentration became legendary. You can see Bloodsport's influence in so many other tournament-style martial arts films. It even inspired franchises like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. It essentially created a template that martial arts movies would follow for years to come. The fights in the film are brutal and insanely fun to watch. As for the acting and story, well, let's just say we've seen better. But seriously, if you've never watched Bloodsport, you're missing out on a cult classic. It's the film that launched the Muscles from Brussels into stardom and spawned a martial arts franchise with multiple sequels. Though none have ever quite captured the magic of this sweaty, testosterone-fueled original. It's the perfect blend of ridiculous and awesome that makes 80s action movies so endlessly watchable. Now, let's get into why I mentioned that this is a questionable real-life story. Almost everything Dux has claimed about his life and the Kumite has been seriously disputed. His background is riddled with contradictions. like claiming he served in Vietnam when the war wasn't even happening at the time he enlisted, or saying he was a CIA agent on covert missions. He's even boasted about an undefeated record in a secret tournament, but there's absolutely no evidence to support any of it. Many believe he fabricated the entire story. Even screenwriter Sheldon Littich called Dux a delusional daydreamer who told entertaining lies that just happened to make a great movie. And while Dux has stuck to his story over the years, almost every major claim has been debunked or exposed as wildly exaggerated. Bloodsport 2, The Next Kumite, 1996, a sequel no one wanted. After the success of the original film, it took 8 whole years for a sequel to arrive, and let's just say the wait was not worth it. Bloodsport 2, The Next Kumite, was the sequel no one asked for. It was missing the key ingredient that made the first film work: Jean-Claude Van Damme, with his charisma, iconic kicks, and screen presence. Instead, we got Daniel Bernhardt as Alex Cardo. In this story, Alex is a thief who steals an ancient sword called the Golden Dragon, only to get caught and thrown into a Thai prison. Once there, he instantly makes an enemy, Demon, a brutal inmate who targets Alex from day one and tortures him whenever he can. Fortunately, Alex finds a mentor in Master Sun, an old martial artist who's been imprisoned for years and has spent that time perfecting a deadly technique called Iron Hand. Cue the classic martial arts movie setup. The wise, weathered master sees potential in this scrappy young fighter. Training montages follow. Soon, they learn that an elite underground tournament, a new Kumite, is taking place, and naturally, Demon gets an invite. Master Sun sees the tournament as their only way out and hatches a plan to get Alex in too. The film builds toward exactly what you'd expect: Alex versus Demon in the final match. Most of the fight is a one-sided beatdown, with Demon absolutely destroying Alex. But just as all hope seems lost, Alex shares a dramatic glance with Master Sun in that classic "remember your training" moment. He taps into the power of Iron Hand, because of course he does, and lands a devastating blow that knocks Demon out for good. Alex wins the tournament, and thanks to a deal struck beforehand, both he and Master Sun are set free. The film tries very hard to recreate the original's magic with another mentor-student dynamic, but it just doesn't land the same. Bernhardt isn't awful, he clearly knows martial arts and has decent screen presence, but he's no Van Damme. The villain lacks impact, the stakes feel hollow, and overall, the film is completely forgettable. The fight choreography isn't impressive either, and the low budget shows. What made Bloodsport so iconic were the moments that became part of pop culture. Van Damme's splits, his intense stares, and his over-the-top emotion. Bloodsport 2 feels like Bernhardt was handed a generic script and told to do some cool kicks while looking serious. If you're someone who's watched every martial arts movie from the 90s and are scraping the bottom of the VHS bin for more, sure, give Bloodsport 2 a try. Otherwise, just rewatch the original and pretend this one never happened. Bloodsport 3, 1997. The franchise sinks lower. If Bloodsport 2 was a disappointment, Bloodsport 3 was like finding out your favorite restaurant closed and got replaced by something way worse. This film was released just 1 year after the previous installment in 1997, and it answers the question that nobody asked. What if we made the same movie again, but worse in every conceivable way? Trust me, this is a film you really want to avoid. But if you like watching bad movies, I would say go for it. Daniel Bernhardt comes back as Alex Cardo, and the story is mostly told through flashbacks. It starts with Alex waking up after having dreams about the Kumite. He goes to check on his son Jason and finds him awake and reading. Jason tells him about how he's been suspended after fighting his bullies, and Alex is very understanding about this. Alex wants to take Jason to camp so the two can bond, and he tells him the stories about his past, of how he was a criminal, how he met Master Sun, and about the tournament too. Apparently, after winning that tournament in the second movie, Alex was just chilling in India, gambling at some casino, when these masked robbers busted in. Of course, Alex can't help but show off his martial arts skills, taking down most of the guys before they escape with cash and some mysterious package. The casino owner then basically ropes Alex into getting this package back. When he does, it turns out to be diamonds that belong to a mob boss, Duvalier. Duvalier is very grateful, and he invites Alex to a fancy dinner party. Now, at this party, Duvalier shows off his prized fighter, literally called the Beast. He tries recruiting Alex for his upcoming Kumite tournament, but Alex declines, saying he does not fight for profit. This turns out to be a big mistake. Duvalier, being the totally reasonable guy he is, responds by having Master's son killed. Alex turns to Lung, played by Pat Morita. Yes, Mr. Miyagi himself, who somehow got roped into this mess, looking for revenge. Lung sends him to this guy called the Judge, who happens to be Master Sun's brother. The Judge teaches Alex some mystical energy channeling technique that's basically just Iron Hand 2.0. Duvalier realizes that Alex might actually beat his champion and ruin his betting odds, so he tries to stop Alex from entering the tournament. Alex is smarter though. He sneaks in disguised as the entourage member of another fighter. The tournament plays out exactly like how you would expect. Alex and the Beast fight other opponents and win until they finally face off in the finals. The Beast initially beats the crap out of Alex, of course, until, wait for it, Alex remembers his training and suddenly channels it all to knock out the Beast. Then, showing remarkable restraint, he does not kill Duvalier because it would not bring Sun back. The movie wraps up with Alex and his son driving away from their camping trip. The script essentially copies the previous film, swapping out details just enough to call it a new movie. This time around, Alex faces a new villain called the Beast, a name that sounds intimidating, but belongs to a character who is totally not menacing at all. The Beast is no Chong Li. Hell, he's not even a demon from Part 2. He lacks any memorable qualities other than being the designated bad guy who just grunts a lot. At least Bolo Yeung in the original had some presence. The tournament scenes, which, let's face it, are the only reason anyone still watches these movies, feels like they were choreographed very sloppily. What's truly remarkable is how they managed to make a film with an even lower budget than Part 2. Bernhardt tries his best, but he is given absolutely nothing to work with. Unless you're doing a marathon of the worst martial arts movies, or you're related to someone in the cast, there is absolutely no reason to subject yourself to the horror that is Bloodsport 3. Bloodsport 4, The Dark Kumite, 1999. The absolute rock bottom. You might think that this franchise could not possibly sink any lower than it already has, but just then, Bloodsport 4 comes along to prove that there is something even worse than rock bottom. This film was released in 1999 and is probably the point where everyone involved had clearly given up on the franchise, including the audience. Daniel Bernhardt comes back in this, but in an unusual twist, he's not even playing the character of Alex Cardo anymore. Instead, he's now John Keller. Apparently, changing the main character's name was the fresh direction they thought the series needed, but it's not like it achieved anything. It's like they weren't even trying to maintain any sort of continuity. The plot, if we're being generous enough to call it that, revolves around a prison where they hold an underground kumite. Yes, we've gone from an exotic tournament in Hong Kong to literally fighting in a prison basement. A total downgrade, right? John Keller is an agent and he goes deep undercover into a prison called Fuego Pengo. You might wonder why. Well, it's because prisoners are vanishing without a trace. They're not just dying, their bodies are straight up disappearing. So Keller gets himself thrown into this prison, and soon he stumbles onto the reason behind all those missing inmates. Some megalomaniac named Justin Caesar, a very subtle name by the way, is running an underground death tournament inside the prison walls. And of course, it's called the Kumite, because why would they come up with something new at this point in the franchise? This isn't your standard prison boxing match. Caesar's little game forces inmates to fight to the death for entertainment. And just to make sure everyone understands the stakes, Caesar has exactly one rule for his tournament, and that is that there are no rules. So now our undercover agent has to survive this brutal prison fight club long enough to expose the operation, all while trying not to become another disappeared corpse himself. Isn't that fun? The budget for this film seems to have been whatever loose change the producers found between their couch cushions. It's embarrassingly low. The fight scenes are just horrible. The Kumite in this is basically just a very cheap excuse for these bad fight scenes. The acting is equally horrible. The characters are very forgettable too. What's truly insulting is that this film has absolutely nothing to do with the original Bloodsport. It's just using the name as bait while delivering a product that's closer to guys fighting in a basement than anything resembling the tournament that made the franchise famous. By this point, the series had gone from a legitimate martial arts cult classic to something you would find in the trash with a "please take this away" sign. Bloodsport 4 does not just kill the franchise, it digs up its corpse and somehow kills it again. If you value your time and your fond memories of the original one, pretend this film never happened. Trust me, even the most dedicated martial arts fans would be better off watching paint dry on walls. Lady Bloodfight, 2016, a female-led Bloodsport successor? Just when you thought this franchise was done, nearly 30 years after the first film, someone had the bright idea to reimagine Bloodsport with a female lead. The result of this was the 2016 film Lady Bloodfight, which is basically Bloodsport but with women instead. And surprisingly, this one kind of works. So Amy Johnston, who was actually Scarlett Johansson's stunt double, plays Jane, a waitress who goes to Hong Kong looking for her dad. Apparently, he was a Kumite fighter who just vanished into thin air. As she is going through Hong Kong, she ends up fighting 3 guys who try to rob her. Here is where she meets Shu, who takes an interest in her because of how she can fight. Shu then recruits her to fight in an all-female tournament, which is, of course, named Kumite. But what makes this movie interesting is that it's not just Jane's story. We also have Ling, played by Jenny Wu, who has been picked by this kung fu teacher named Wei to fight in the upcoming Kumite. And here is where things get interesting. Wei has a grudge against her sister Shu because they fought against each other in the tournament, and the result was a draw. The prize money that the two of them are supposed to receive has been held up because of this, and the two are allowed to bring someone else to fight and settle this tie. So now Jane trains with Shu, and Ling trains with Wei, and the sisters are now basically fighting with each other through them. This film gets many of the elements from the first film: the Kumite, training montages, the tournament structure, and Jane making friends with a competitor, but it switches things up enough to feel fresh. Ling's not just a one-dimensional villain in this one, she has her own story arc. The real Chong Li of this movie is Fieta, played by Mei Ling Eng, who just loves seeing her opponents in pain. The fights are actually way more brutal than the original Bloodsport. What really separates Lady Bloodfight from the Bloodsport franchise is this whole reconciliation theme. Initially, Wei is obsessed with getting revenge on her sister, but the theme then becomes about letting go of grudges. The cast are good with the fight scenes, but the same cannot be said about their acting. Sure, the plot is predictable if you've seen, well, any tournament fighting movie ever. Jane meets her mentor, trains hard, faces personal demons, and fights against difficult opponents. Johnston doesn't have Van Damme's unique charisma or his splits, and some of the dialogue is still pretty cringy. But unlike the other sequels, this film actually feels like it was made by people who care about martial arts films. It's worth checking out and honors the legacy of the first film way more than the other pathetic sequels. Future of the Bloodsport franchise. Will there ever be a reboot? The Bloodsport franchise has been dormant for quite some time now, and I must say, this is way better than all those horrible sequels. But it's kind of surprising that no one's tried to resurrect this till now. There have been rumors and whispers going around about a potential Bloodsport remake for a good amount of time since the early 2010s. Way back in May 2011, news broke out that they were planning to revive the franchise. They managed to get Philip Noyce as the director, with Robert Mark Kamen writing the script of the film. The story was supposed to be about an American guy who goes to Brazil to recover from all the trauma from Afghanistan and naturally gets sucked into underground fighting. Now here is where it gets interesting. Despite Van Damme publicly saying he wanted to work on the project, they basically told him no. I mean, who in their right mind would say no to Van Damme? The guy started off this franchise, and the sequels have been horrible without him. By October 2012, Kamen was saying that Van Damme would not be involved in this because this was not really a Bloodsport sequel at all. According to him, the only thing this film had to do with the original was sharing a title. Other than that, they said there would be no other connections. Apparently, it was supposed to be a film that was politically and character-driven. They're basically just saying that they only want the recognition that comes with using the name without any other additional baggage. Then, by July 2013, they switched directors. James McTeague took over and started rewriting Kamen's script with Craig Rosenberg. They kept the original story framework from Kamen and Noyce, but shifted focus to modern mercenaries fighting in underground Vale Tudo matches in Brazil. They were all set to start filming in early 2014 across Australia and Brazil. But of course, nothing happened. The project just sat there gathering dust till June 2019, when the guys behind John Wick, Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, suddenly came in wanting to co-direct. This actually got really exciting because, as we know, those guys know how to film fight scenes that don't suck. They even came back to Van Damme about possibly making an appearance in some capacity, and even approached original Bloodsport screenwriter Sheldon Lettich, who seemed genuinely excited about their take on the film. But since then, it's been radio silence. This sounds like the film is stuck in the classic Hollywood development hell, right? At this point, I'll believe a Bloodsport reboot is happening when I'm actually watching it in theaters. Marvelous verdict. Well, with that, guys, we've come to the end of yet another fun video. It's truly been a delight going through all the films in this franchise with you all. Do you guys think there actually will be a reboot? Those of you who haven't watched these films, do check them out sometime, even though some of them might be horrible. And those of you who've already seen them, which one was your favorite? I'm sure it must be the one with Van Damme in it, but if there's anyone out there who liked any of the sequels more than the first, do let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed watching this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Until next time.